civilized, as it were. And what I'll do is I'll go through. If there's any questions as we go through, let me know. So what I'll do is I'll share my screen to start with. I don't like it the way Teams puts the share button right next to the leave button. I have disappeared a couple of times when I've meant to share. So great. Can you see that screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And is it big enough? Is the text okay? And
Yeah.
yep.
That's
Okay,
yeah.
brilliant. Okay, so this is your clinical skills dashboard, and obviously Denise, you're used to it, and Karen, you're sort of maybe seeing it for the first time. And just to go over the basics, how it works, on the right hand side, we've got latest updates. So these are guides that we've updated recently. We've got more than 500 guides, and nearly 90% have been updated in the last 2 years. So we're always updating them. And as we update them, we do put a little thing there as well. Underneath, you have a thing called Organisation Quick Links, and I'll show you what that is a bit later on. But basically, it's a way of pinning guides to your dashboard or to the dashboard for the whole organisation that all your users will be able to see. Now, what I'm doing is I'm actually signed in as a super user at your organisation. What I'm doing is I'm masquerading as a super user, so you'll see exactly what you should get exactly the same view that I'm getting here. Just going through a few things. The My Profile, all your functions are accessed from these tiles on the left. The My Profile area has got your basic details about, name and address, and obviously this has got my details in there and the organisation as well. There is the ability to turn on multi-factor authentication, and that has to be done on an individual basis. It's turned on for this one already, but if it's not, there's a button for people to turn it on. So I don't know if MFA, multi-factor authentication, is something that your organisation is big on, or is it? It's not a particular factor.
I think for just logging in onto our mails, when we have it in one area.
Yeah. So it might be there's something. At the moment, people have to turn it on individually, but we are looking at moving it so that you can turn it on for whole organisations. So everyone has to have it. But if people turn it on by mistake, we can turn it off again. So just let it, and I can show you how to do that actually. Okay, so going from there, the next big area to look at is guides. So at the moment these are things that users can see as well. And the thing to say, even as a super user, you can still use the sites to look at guides, take assessments, do a lot of the stuff that the users can do as well. So you come into the guides area, you've got all the guides divided up into sections. You've got a nice little button here to see all guides, which lists them down the page. It takes a second to open, but it displays them down the page, so in a list format. It's running a bit slow. I think it's because I'm masquerading. It's being a bit fussy. If it's playing up, there we go. And basically lists all the guides down the page, divided up by section. So you've got all healthcare professionals sections. You've got an adult section, and going down, you've got children, midwifery, all the other sections. And within each section, you've got different categories. So, for example, we've got an infection control measures category within the all healthcare professionals section. And you can either find the guide just down the list here. You can search for guides by using the search bar at the top. So you can do that, and you can see all the guides, for example, related to diabetes. Or you can just clear that and then see all the guides. And then to open a guide, either from this page you click on the link, or the previous page you can click on the tiles. But to open a guide, and I often use the routine hand hygiene one, you just click on the link, and then it opens the guide up in the page here. The guides all open up as PDFs within a browser panel. So exactly how it looks will vary on what browser you're using. I'm using Chrome, but if you're using Edge or something else, it may look slightly different. The guides themselves, just very briefly, you can play around with them because they're PDFs. You can make them bigger, smaller. If you're feeling a little bit sleepy, you can even read them lying down. You can do all the usual sort of stuff with them. You can also download them and print them out, and you're welcome to do that. The only thing we say is obviously don't share it outside your organisation. And the other thing is, because we update the guides quite regularly, if you download it and store it locally or print it out, you might find that users are actually accessing an older version. So it's always best to come back to the website. Other things you can do, you can click to jump directly to various pages on the guide by opening up the thumbnail section there. And the guides themselves, if you have a look around them, Just to say they're very similar in layout. You have the introductory material at the top, which tells you a bit about the guide, and then everything else is very highly illustrated all the way through. Things like removing all the rings and stuff like that. So I don't know if your staff come into work covered in bling, long necklaces and things like that, but whatever. Um, so again, obviously you can have a look around that. So just to say, under the guides, there's also additional information, and this is available, as I say, for all the users. So you've got the aim of the guide, learning outcomes, how it maps to NMC standards, etc. The references. So the references are there, and you can click to go straight through to the references. So obviously that can be very useful. Key reading, we often try and bring out the most important aspects of the references. If people want to actually do a little bit of key reading, we try and point them to the most relevant ones. The authors, I probably said before, that all the authors are subject matter experts, nurses who work in the field. And all our guides are double blind peer reviewed as well by experts in the area as well. And then you've got information about when it was last updated, and this one was first done back in 2009 and updated back in 2024, and is due for update very soon. I know with this guy there's a study, an EPIC 4 study, that we're waiting for the results to come out for, which will have some impact on hand hygiene, and we're watching for when that comes out. We may need to update the guide to reflect that. So that's the sort of basic functions of the guides themselves. I'll just tell you a little bit about the top buttons here, which do include a couple of things as super users that you can do. First thing you can do is you can add an organisation note to the top of this guide. Now, the guides are obviously written for a wide range of organisations, so it may be that some of the equipment shown in the guide or some of the techniques doesn't quite marry with what your local policies are. So what you can do is you can add an organisation note to the top of the guide. And this might be something like, I'll just put test note because this is actually your website. But you could put something like see local infection control policy, for example. And then you could actually hyperlink that to your infection control policy, which is online, or if there is a media area on the website, you could store it in. And then what would happen if that's done? If I just unlink that. Sorry, silly me. So if I just put test note here. What happens then is when any of your users come to this guide, they will see that at the top of the guide, and they will know that there's additional information they have to look at. They can click read more, and then it'll expand. So I'll just delete that because obviously we don't want that sitting there for your users. But that can be very useful if you want to direct people to additional policies, and obviously you can put as much information there as you want. All your users, including yourself, have the ability to add a personal note as well. And that can be a note that only they will see. So it could be something like, don't speak to Karen before he's had his first coffee in the morning because he's a bit grumpy or whatever. It could be something practical. In this situation, it might be that, well, the gloves we use are kept in the bottom drawer in the staff room or something like that. And only they'll see that. So the organisation notes is something you can do as a super user. The personal notes, everyone can do. Just the other buttons here. There is a CPD area which I'll show you in a moment, which is useful for all your users. All the data that was under the guide, the references, the key reading, etc., you can download those in one lump by clicking on that button. It pulls them all together into a PDF and you can download it. You can jump across to any assessments that are related to the guide. And then you can use what we call quick links. What you can do here as a super user, you have the ability to add an organisation quick link. So you turn that on, and what that means is that whenever a user comes to their dashboard, they will have a link to that guide on the right hand side under organisation quick links. So if you've got particular guides that you want to be seen regularly or want people to access quickly, you can pin them to this side of the board. So I'll go back and take it out. I can see that someone's already added blood pressure part 3 to that. So you can turn that bit off. Users can also add their own personal quick links. So if I turn that on and go back to the dashboard, you see there should be, where's it gone? Well, it hasn't come up yet. Oh, I think, yeah, this may not work because I'm masquerading, so it's a little bit confusing. But what users can do, they can add their own personal quick link to the guide. And what will happen then if they do that, In the dashboard, a My Quick Links area appears at the bottom, and that will have the links that they particularly want to use. So it's not working here because I'm sort of masquerading, pretending to be a super user, and I think it's that's confusing it slightly. But if you try that yourself, you'll find you get that panel. Um, the other thing you've got here is a guide checklist. A lot of our guides have competency checklists. And these are downloadable. You can download them, and they're used to test the practical application of the knowledge. So in this case, this is about measuring blood pressure. This one, because I've jumped across the other guide. You would actually sit down. You would have someone who's an expert or has experience in the procedure, who would then watch someone who's actually learning how to do it correctly and seeing if they're doing it correctly. So just going through, making sure that the patient is rested, explaining the procedure, etc. And at the end of the checklist, there's usually a few questions, just again to test the practical application of the knowledge for the person being assessed. Now, at the moment, you have to download these, but we're just in the final stages of testing an online version of this, where you'll be able to do the checklist online, create your own checklists, and also combine them with self-certification and online assessments to make a clinical competency. So we'll be rolling that out soon. It is an upgrade to the existing package, but what we'll be doing is obviously giving demonstrations of that and talking about whether that would be useful for you. So any questions there? I've sort of thrown a lot of information at you about the guides.
No, it looks amazing so far. And please
Yeah,
keep me updated about the competency
will
update
do.
as well.
Yeah. It's
Um,
it's a thing that's going to be great because you'll be able to take three elements: self-certification,
yeah,
online checklist, which will be done, and you can actually assign them to an assessor who will then do it, and it's got to then be signed off by a manager. So it's quite comprehensive. We're just putting the final touches to it now,
and is that all
making
on this platform then as well? So just as an example, Denise will know exactly where I'm going towards with this, but there's a moving and handling section there as an example.
sure.
It'll all be on this, so it will just ping across to an assessor and they can just.
How it would work. I mean, I can give you a full demonstration at some point, but it's basically what you would do is you would set up a competency on the system, which would include checklists. The person would then start the checklist. They'd have to nominate an assessor who would actually then be assessed. They would then get an email to say there's a checklist waiting to be completed. Then the two people meet up, the assessor and the assessee, and then actually work through the checklist online. And then when it's completed, the assessor can add notes to the bottom and then ping it back to the manager, who will then review it and then sign it off. So that's all going to be, and that will be stored in the user record, and you'll be able to run reports and all that as well. And as I say, you'll be able to build them yourself, make your own checklists, your own competencies, set renewal dates for them, and all sorts of things. And you might say, well, the initial competency means completing two checklists, reading this assessment and doing this online assessment. But when you renew it, you only have to do one checklist, for example. So there's a lot of flexibility there. So that may be something to, when we roll out, I'll make a note to sort of come back to you and say we're ready to
Yes,
sort of
please.
demonstrate that. And we will be, I think you're on the newsletter lists now, so there will be information coming out about that. So, so it's not available
Amazing.
to you yet. And there will be an additional charge as well. So it's
Yeah.
because it's a significant upgrade to the system. So
Yeah.
uh,
Amazing.
okay, so going back to the dashboard, so hopefully that's everything about the. Oh, one thing to remember about the guides: if you want to share a link to a guide, always use this button, because if you copy the URL at the top, it may not work. You can see here the URL includes organization admin, so the URL includes your role. So if you send that to someone who's a user, they may not be able to open it. So always use that link to copy that button to copy the link. Oh, okay, going back to the dashboard. We've got an assessments area. So I don't know, Denise, have you had a look at the assessments at all?
No, I haven't. No, I
No,
haven't.
okay. So I'll just go over them, as a sort of user as well, and then I'll do the super user functions that later on. So when you go into the assessment area, there's two panels. There's what we call standard assessments, and these are ones that we've built at Clinical Skills, available for a wide range of organisations. There's also the ability to build your own local assessments. Now this is greyed out because you haven't got any local assessments at the moment, but basically you can make your own assessments on the system. They can include a mixture of the questions that we've already created, brand new questions, or they can be just brand new questions of your own. And these are only available to your users. So if you did want to sort of set a system up of online assessments, this is the ideal way to do it. And you can also make those so they expire. a lot of organisations would have, say, a venue puncture assessment that people have to do, and then they have to redo it after a year to sort of keep it current. So that, again, if that's something you wanted to do, very happy to provide additional training on that and go through, how it would work, how you build the assessments as well. So because that area, it's very powerful, but there's a bit of a learning curve there. And usually what we do with an organisation is give them some initial training, get them started on the assessments, and then come back and see how they're doing and sort of take it forward from there. But just to show you what the assessments look like when they're constructed, going to the standard assessments area, you've got a whole range of assessments on a whole range of subjects. So blood transfusion, there's a lot of care certificate ones here as well. You just to say, you can turn on and off guides and assessments for particular teams in your organisation, and I'll show you how to do that a little bit later on. So, but if I just grab, say, for example, catheterization assessment, just to show you what it looks like. All the assessments start with a standard introductory screen like this, which tells you a little bit about how many questions. You can jump across directly to the guides that it's based on, and also how long you've got and things like that. Now, if you build a local assessment, you can put whatever you want there. So you can put links to your own local policies, or any information about or links to our guides as well. So a lot of organisations build local assessments as a sort of prelude to face-to-face training. A lot of organisations will say, well, you need to complete this online assessment to show you've actually got the basic knowledge. You can then print out a pass certificate, which I'll show you a bit later, and then you bring that along to the face-to-face training to show that you've actually achieved the basic standard before we attempt the face-to-face training. So that can be quite useful. When people want to start, they just continue to question 1. And then the questions are listed down the left-hand side. They're usually chosen randomly from a bank of questions. But if you build your own assessments, you can make them random. You can have some compulsory questions. You can mix and match. And basically people just work through and pick the correct answers. We've got multiple choice questions with one correct answer, with several correct answers. We've got true, false questions. There's a question format where you can test people's ability to work out medication doses. They've got to work out a dose and a correct unit as well. So there's again a variety of questions. So if I just do a couple, for example, if I just female urinary catheterization, anyone want to have a guess for that one?
Is it the Hickman?
Don't ask me. That's good, because now if it's wrong, I've got someone to blame. So, but basically, I won't go through them all, but they just go through answering questions. At the end, they have the ability to review the answers they put, so they can change the answer, and they can also answer any questions they've missed. And when they've finished, they submit the assessment like that, and then that immediately will tell them how they've done. So it's a Foley catheter, but that's okay. It's early in the morning, so but yeah, it's, no, I've heard of Hickman lines. I thought that's something to do with I don't know. There we go. Anyway, so yeah, so they straight away see how they've done, and they get the chance to retake. They can see what the correct answers are as well, so they've got that information there. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Going back to the dashboard, the next area to look at is my performance. Now, will this work as a yes? What users can do once they've taken their assessments, they can go in and they can actually look at all the assessments they've taken on the system. So they can see how they did. They can filter down by a particular assessment or the date it was taken. They can look at any results, so they could look at the ones that they've actually passed. So if I select those, I've actually been passed. And if they passed an assessment, they can download a certificate as well to show they've actually passed it. So this is what I was saying earlier. If you have an online face-to-face meeting, you might want them to come along with the certificate just to show that they've actually completed it. So obviously this is not really one that you would take, but again, it's because I'm masquerading as a user. I'm getting all sorts of tests coming up. So, but they've got their certificate. They can see how they're doing. If the assessment expires, if it's a local assessment and it's got an expiry date, they can see when it expires, and they obviously can see there it's overdue. So they've got a lot of information about their own assessments there. So again, this is just looking as a user. Well, when we come on to the super user functions, you'll be able to see how you can run reports on what assessments people have been doing. Okay, so far?
Oh, great so far, yeah.
Okay. Another area that's available to all your users is the CPD area. And what I'll do is I'll actually demonstrate this on another page because I've created some CPD records already. But all your users have access to a CPD area, which includes several templates laid out in the NMC format. The idea is that you can add a new record, and you can add as many different types of records as you want. You can add as many CPD records, but the records are laid out in the NMC CPD format: reflective account, reflective discussion, practice related feedback. And what you can do when you create a record, and I'll just look at my infection control CPD record here, you'll see that it's actually laid out with the standard NMC information at the top, a couple of links to jump across to information about standards of proficiency or other information about the revalidation requirements. And then what your users can do for each CPD record, they can add as many log rows as they want to that record. So this is a CPD record about infection control. They could add a row to say that they had a ward infection control meeting. I need to fill that out actually at some point. They had some online learning where they just sat down and read some of the clinical skills guides. And then they could put, for example, they went to a course and had face-to-face training. And again, they can put the number of hours, number of participatory hours there. And you can add as many log rows as you want as you go through the year or however. When it comes to revalidation, you can download the whole thing. So if I just download that, and it comes out ready laid out in the NMC format. So the idea is just to make revalidation a little bit easier for the users. Now this is all personal to the users. As super users, you can't directly view this information, so that is personal to them, whereas you can run reports on things like assessments and stuff like that. And the idea is just you've got different formats of CPD records, as say reflective accounts. Again, they're all laid out in the standard NMC format. And at the top here, people can search by particular dates for the log rows, and they can see how many hours of participatory and non-participatory hours they've got at the top. So it's too early in the morning for complicated words. So that can be a good way to help people keep on track of their CPD. So okay, it's interesting that some people say wow, some people are very much, well, so what, but it's something that's available to your staff if they want to use that. Okay, so
That's really good. That is. Just a quick question on the CPD hours. Has any of your clients that you've worked with, organizations you've worked with, used it for things like safeguarding?
they use it for a whole range of things. I mean, the thing about the CPD area, how exactly what are you sort of thinking along those lines?
So with safeguarding, one of the I think every year safeguarding they need to demonstrate a specific amount of hours,
Right.
and in particular if an organization is using ESR as an example, it's really difficult to work that out. So something that's commonly asked is how is there ways of recording 8 hours of safeguarding
You
CPD
could,
as an example?
I mean, you could do it as the NMC format, but the other thing we have is, I should have demonstrated, is what we call personal CPD area. And this is just a more free form record type. You can add a record here, say a CPD record, and then you could say safeguarding, for example, there. You can then add log rows to that. And again, you can give dates. So you might say that, on the 5th of April, I did, 5 hours with 5 hours participatory. And then you can add additional information to each log row. So you can actually give a description of what that activity was. And you can add new log rows all the way through. So that might work. It's a bit of a workaround, but it's a generic format. The only problem is you can't run reports on that because it's
Right.
just private to the individual. So maybe something that the competency side would actually work better because
Yeah.
that can enable you to sort of build up checklists and actually demonstrate what you've done. So that's a possible. I mean, people use the CPD record for a whole range of things. The other nice thing is if people do join your organization from another organization that subscribes to clinical skills and they've got CPD information or assessment information on their old record, we can move it across to you so they can carry that CPD information across with you. And the same if they move on from you to someone else. Not that I can see why they'd ever want to do that, obviously. Okay. So those are the sort of just the user functions. Let me go back to your organization. So any questions on just the straight user functions at that point?
Not at all.
There is a help area as well, which is available to you and to all your staff as well. And that includes links to various help areas for the users on things like how to find and use guides. And some of these have videos, and all of them have sort of detailed instructions at the bottom. And we're adding to that as we go along. There's also a super user and managers area, which gives you more information about reports and how to create assessments. As I say, we're always happy to offer training on that. Okay, so those are the sort of basic user functions. What we'll do now is move on to the super user functions, if that's okay. And the first area I'll look at are, I'll actually look at the team management and user management first, and then we'll come back to the reports. If I go into teams, we've set your organization up with 178 different teams. So they're all divided up into teams. And here you can see how many people are actually in each individual team. You can jump across and see all the accounts in the team just by clicking here. Oh, Karen's back. Oh, gone. Don't know if it's just the video's off.
Not sure.
Is he always?
Can you put something in the chat? Hold on.
Yeah, okay. I'll hang on for a second.
I'll just message him and see whether.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Oh, it's
there
okay.
he is.
No, it's okay. So that's fine. So okay. So yeah, I was just looking at the teams function. So just looking at the teams in the system. And this is useful to know about just so you can manage the users. When you come into the teams area, you've got all the teams listed here. You can select to list them, list 200 at a time so you can see all the teams that are set up on the system. The number of users is sort of shown on the button here, and you can click that to go across to the user management area and see all the users in the team. And I'll show you that in a moment. You can obviously create new teams just by using the create team button there. One very useful function here is the ability to change what your users see for a particular team. So for example, say you've got the bowlers green team at the top here, and you decide for whatever reason they don't need to see the blood transfusion guides. It may be particularly where you're looking at a team with HCAs in rather than registered nurses. What you can do though is come across to the actions button for that team. You then have the ability to change what guides they can see, what assessments they see, and what local assessments they see. So what I can do here is I can click on the standard guide overview. We get the name of the team there, and then the section of guides is listed down here. So what we want to do is we want to take the blood transfusion guides away. So what I do is I go to the adult section, filter that, and then I can use the arrow on the left here to dial that down. And there we go. There's the blood transfusion category of guides. And I can dial that down and I can see the individual guides. Now, say, for example, I decided they didn't need any blood transfusion guides. You can just turn it off like that. And you can do it down to individual levels. So, for example, cardiac care, you might decide that this team, people in the team will be able to record an ECG, but they shouldn't really be trying to interpret it. So you could turn the interpreting ones off. So you've got a lot of control over what content your teams see. When you've done that, click Save. It then asks you to put a description of what changes you've made, just so that when another super user comes back later, they can see who's made what changes and what the reasoning was. So just put, removed blood transfusion guides, for example. Now, if you do this, it's very important that you click this box. Make changes to all accounts in the team. Otherwise, all the users won't be updated. The team itself will, but not the actual user accounts. So make sure you click that. I always I wonder if that should be clicked by default, but at the moment it isn't. And then you click submit. I won't do that here because I don't want to change this team, but that will mean that when the users in that team go onto their guides area, they just won't see the clinical skills, blood transfusion and the cardiac care guides we've turned off. So that, again, some organizations do that, in great detail. Some say, well, we're happy for any of our users to see any of the content, but, there have been concerns in some organizations that HCAs might read guides, and having read a guide, feel that they're actually able to do the procedure, which may not be appropriate. So that's something for you to have a think about internally. You can do the same with the, as I say, the standard assessment. So if I come across here, look at standard assessment overview for that team. I can come in and again, it just takes a second to collate what information's there. I can come in again, pick the particular section, and then you can turn, say for example, if you didn't want the care assessments, care certificate guide assessments, you can just turn those off as a whole for that team. And again, click save on that. And the same with any local assessments you've made. So you could create a local assessment just for one particular team or more than, just for a few teams. You can also look at several teams at once using the buttons at the top of the screen. So if I click that, what you get then is you get the first 10 of your 178 teams displayed across the top of the page, and you can make changes to several teams at once, which can be a little bit quicker. Again, just dial down the teams you want. If you want to just look at a few teams, you can actually use the button at the top to select the teams you want to look at, and then maybe go to the next page. If I go to the next page and pick a team off the next page, there we go. Then click compare, and just the teams you've selected will be shown on the screen. So again, that can be a useful way of just comparing content. So that's the function you have available, and you can do the same for the assessments, standard and local. So does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Great. Yeah. I mean, again, I know I was working with one hospice, and they did this very, they had a lot of teams. They went through every team, they allocated the content, created local assessments, and then allocated those to the particular team. But you may just want to leave it more open. Okay, going back to the dashboard, we've got the user management area, which I'll mention because you may well need to actually access this. In the user management area, you can actually search for a particular user by their first name, last name, email. You can search by a particular role in the organization, a super user or a manager. And you can also look for any accounts that are active or been deactivated. So I search there, I should see you, and there we are. I can see, Karen, that you've signed in and you're okay into the account. Now, you can add a user here by clicking on the add account button. And then that will you can add the user, first name, last name, email address, etc. What you can do in this screen as well when you add a user is you can allocate them to a particular team. So if you filled in all the details at the top, you might say, well, I want this to be user in, for example, the Wren ward, for example. So you click that, click change, and then they're then assigned as a user in that team. So if you change the content available to a particular team, that can be quite important. If you want to change to a different team, just delete that, pick a new team, and click change and do that there. Then click activate account. And what will happen then is an email will go out to them with a link to click on, and then they'll be able to log in. So has Karen gone again?
Maybe he's picked up a phone call.
Phone call, right? Okay.
Perhaps.
Any
We're
questions?
recording it, so I think we can continue.
Should be okay. So yeah. So So does that make sense, Denise, from your point of view?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. So the other thing I must say as well that if you've got to add loads of accounts, don't sit there just clicking and adding 30, 40 accounts. Let us know, and we can upload them as we did for the bulk of the users. We can send you a template, and then you can put them in there. We can then separate them into the teams and take them from there and upload them at this end to save you a bit of time. The other thing I'll mention as well, I don't know if I mentioned about the manager role. You've got 3 roles in the system. You've got the super users, which is you can see everyone, you can run reports. You've got the users who can obviously use the system to look at guides, assessments, etc. And you have a manager role. And what a manager is, it's like a super user, but just for particular teams. So if you've got someone who you want to be able to manage one or more teams, you can set them up as a manager for those teams. They can run reports on those teams. They can add users to those teams, but they can't see any other teams, any other users in the organization. So in terms of structure, that might be something that's useful for you. I don't think we've set anyone up as managers at the moment. No, we haven't done the system. Just a couple of other things you can do as well. If I come in and look at users, so you've got all the users on the system here. If someone has forgotten a password, You can use the actions button to actually send them a password reset link. And you
Mm-hmm.
can also run reports directly from this page as well. But I'll show you the reports in a moment. And you can see as well, when they've accessed, if they've accessed. So obviously this user hasn't accessed the system yet. So you can very quickly look at that. Okay, back to the dashboard. I'll look at the reports area next. Okay, so if you come to the reports area, you've got several reports available to you. And the first one is the assessments report. You can come into this. You can download. You can filter by a particular user. You can filter by a particular team, or you can filter by a particular assessment. You can also filter by dates. This one is the date an assessment started, and this is the date it's completed. So if I say, if I just go back a bit, so we've basically got everyone on the system because obviously you've joined quite recently. You can come through and select a date range, and then you can just run search and you can see who's been taking assessments on the system. So you can see already that there's 100 assessments being taken on the system. You can see who took them. You can see obviously their team, and you can see how they did. And obviously in this case, Jennifer's passed the assessment, care certificate assessment. If they passed an assessment, you can also download the pass certificate for your own records as a super user. You can also look at the answers they put. So, for example, here, if we look at Stanley, he's failed this assessment. We can go in and see where he went wrong. So we can come in here and we can view his answers. So you can see here he got the third question wrong. So if you've got a particular user that you're worried about how they actually did, you can come in and have a look. This one also includes some feedback as well. When you get the correct answer shown, sometimes there's additional feedback which tells them a little bit more information, and that's something you can add as into a local assessment. The most common usage tends to be if you've got a drug calculation question, and where people have got to work out how many tablets or how many milligrams. Usually it's good to sort of put the calculations under the answer. So even if they get the answer wrong, they can see how they should have calculated the correct answer. So that's something that can be quite useful. Okay, so that's you can do for the report area as well. If I just view all of them there. The other thing you can do is you can download that report as a CSV, which means you can open it in Excel. So anything you search for here, you can download and open in Excel and do additional analysis on it if you want. Going back to the reports area, recent activity can be very useful. Again, you can come in, you can search for a particular item you want to look for. Basically what this report does, it will show you every page on the website that every user has visited. So you can filter down to a particular page or a particular person. But if I just do a straight search, you can see here that over the date range from the 17th of March to today, you've had 500 unique users on the site. So you're getting quite a few people going in and using it. Obviously a lot are not. We can see, Karen, we can see you there, and we can see you there, Denise. So we can see exactly what people have been doing on the site. If I go forward a bit, and so it shows every page, and obviously there's a lot for you there. But if I come forward, there we go. So you can come through and see all the people, which assessments they've been taking. You can click on that to go straight to the assessment to see what they've been looking at. So there's a lot of data there. The nice way is it does give you a very quick way of seeing how many unique users on the site and how many hits. So it's good to see people have started using it. You may find that this is something you need to keep an eye on. I always say that when you launch clinical skills, you obviously roll it out, but you do need sometimes to put a bit of work into getting people to using it regularly, because everyone's very busy and it's something new and something addition, for them to look at. But generally, once people start using it, they realize how valuable it can be. Yeah. Again, you can download this as a CSV file and open it in Excel, which can be useful because there's a lot of data here as well. So you can do that. Back to reports. Content updates, there won't be anything in there. This is if you build local assessments, this keeps track of who's made changes to those local assessments. Because it may be, say, for example, the two of you working on one local assessment, and maybe Denise makes a change to the title or adds more questions or something. And then, Karen, you may go back in a few days later and wonder why things have changed and who made the change. So this is when you build local assessments. And again, as I say, happy to give you additional training on that. This one could be interesting, content usage. If I go in here, again, you can search for a particular team or, username or whatever. But if I just search for everyone, I get a list of what content on clinical skills your users have been looking at. Now you can sort this by ascending or descending by clicking here. So if I do that, we'll see what the most common guides are. So far in your organisation, the care planning and urinary continence are the top two guides that have been viewed. So that's a good way of getting a feel for how what the priorities are for your users on the system. And the depression assessment is the one that's most commonly being taken. So it's interesting. I did this for a trust, one of our clients, a few months ago, and the medicine calculation guides came out near the top. Which is interesting because obviously medicine calculation errors can be quite serious. So it was interesting that they were actually looking at that. So again, that can give you an idea of what your users are actually starting to look at on the system. And again, you can download that as a CSV report. Going back to reports, the next one is you can see top visitors. So who's used the website the most? Again, you can filter by teams or just view all. And we can see if I filter by page views, let's see, comes out on top. So Mary there's come out on top. And again, you can see how many views they've taken of the page. It gives you, I don't know how useful it is, but it can give you a rough idea of, if people are using the site and who's been using it most.
Yeah.
And the final report we've got is what we call a training overview. Now I'll demonstrate that on my demo website because I've got it sort of set up to demonstrate. So we have reports. And what this is a way of viewing the assessments that have been taken on the system in a graphical format. So if, for example, I've got a team set up just to demonstrate this, if I come into this team here and click search, what you get is a sort of color-coded matrix showing you the assessments on the left and how people are doing against them. There's a key here, and this shows you that the green ones are people who passed, the ones here where they passed with an expiry date. And as I say, if you make a local assessment, you can set an expiry date. Those that are in progress and those that have been failed. So you can just very quickly see, for example, Edmund here against these assessments has failed the first one, hasn't touched the next 4, but has passed the next 2 down. So that can be a nice visual way of finding what your users have been doing. And you can filter down to look at particular sections. So you might want to see, for example, if anyone's done any assessments on cannulation, and there probably isn't in the system, but there are 2 assessments on cannulation, and you would be able to see if people had taken that and how they were doing. Now you can download that as well, but it downloads as an Excel file, which means that any color coding you got on the sheet will be preserved. So you get an Excel file with all the color coding for pass, fail, and things like that. So those are the reports on the system. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
And again, if you need any help when it comes to run those reports, just let us know. A couple of other areas just to quickly mention. You've got a media library where you can upload, and this again is my demonstration organization, you can upload files to store on the website. Now, what you could use this for is if you want to, for example, have a hand hygiene policy, for example, you can upload it here. Then when you make those organization notes at the top of a guide, or when you make an assessment and you make that introductory screen, you can link across to that policy from those places. So what you can do is you can copy the link to that, and then when you make the organization notes, you can say, please see local hand policy, paste in the link, and then they can jump straight to that guide, that local policy, and see it. So that can be quite a useful way to actually store information. And the only other area really to mention is the content management area, which is where you would go to build the local assessments. So as I say, by all means, come in and have a look at this area. The way assessments are built, I mean, again, as I say, if you want to go into this, it'd probably be good to actually have a separate session and go through how you build assessments. There is a little bit of information in the help area about how they're constructed and how to do it. But basically, you have an assessment which draws questions from a question bank, and each question bank is connected to one guide. And you may have, for example, with blood transfusion, you may have a bank of questions connected to part 1 of the blood transfusion guides, another bank of questions linked to part 2 of the blood transfusion guides. I think there's about 5. And then you build an assessment and you say, well, I'll take 3 questions out of bank 1 and 4 out of bank 2 and 5 out of bank 3 and whatever, and you build an assessment up by taking random questions from those question banks. You can also take compulsory questions as well that turn up every time, and as I mentioned, you can make your own questions, use the questions that are already on there, or combinations. So by all means, come and have a look. You can look at the question banks here that are already on the system. So we've got a question bank on caring for a person with dementia. You can come across here, you can look at the questions in that question bank. And there you can see there's 14 questions there covering dementia. If you want as well, you can go straight into the questions area, which just lists all the questions on the system. And at the moment it's filtered for living with dementia. If you clear that and then search, I think we've got about there's over 11,000 questions on the system. And as I say, you can add your own to those as well. So, but yeah, do have a look at that. If you do go into the assessment area and start playing around trying to build an assessment, probably best to come back to me and we'll go through that. But just be careful. If you do build an assessment and publish it, suddenly it'll be available to all your users. So you don't want to do that until you're sure you know what you're doing. So I think that's pretty much it, really. Any questions on that?
Denise, any questions from you?
Sorry, I'm just flicking through pages.
Yeah, no, have a play yourself, and if you want to have a play around, and then in a few days come back and we can sort of have a look at particular areas you've looked at that you'd like to know more about. That's fine. So always happy to do that. So
Oh, I'm really happy. I think it's a brilliant site.
no, good, no,
It's
good to hear.
fantastic.
So yeah, I think so. The other thing I say is if you do look at a guide and you think, I'll stop sharing now because I think we're done there. So if you do look at a guide and you think, oh no, that's not quite right, or it needs updating, or there's any other problems, do let us know. We're obviously continually monitoring the guides. We've got a clinical commissioning editor who's also a working nurse herself. She's continually reviewing new guidance as it comes out. But sometimes you may pick up stuff before we do. Let us know, and then we're happy to review that with the authors, and it might trigger off, updating process on that guide. So we're always open to suggestions. Sometimes we may come back to you and say, we've had cases where people have come through and said, well, our trust does this. We've then looked at it and found actually the national guidance is what we've got in our guides and not what they're doing. Well, in that case, you'd put an organisation note at the top of the guide to say this is our policy, rather than, or something like that. So good.
It's a really, really impressive platform. It's really, it does fill me with a little bit of sadness because we were trying to get this done a while ago, Sarah and myself, and it's taken a bit of time. And then it's only because I've had some funding available for let's just do it. But it's nice to see. I did see that, what was it, 500 unique users.
Yeah.
That's still really good. That's almost a quarter of how many has been set up, isn't it? So
it is, yeah. I mean, it's always an uphill, getting the first lot in, but then getting sort of the rest in.
Yeah.
You may need to have awareness sessions. As I say, we were going to talk about user training, weren't we? So that's something else I was going to come on to. So I think you were talking about we suggested the 22nd and the 29th. We could do another session on the 6th as well to try and cover as many people as possible. Would that be good?
Yeah, Denise, what do you think how do you think that sounds? So 22nd is Wednesday, 29th and the 6th, that's 3 weeks in a row, just some awareness sessions. And Denise, what I'm thinking that we could do, we'll just do well, how would it work? How would we invite them? Would you do it just I send another email out like
what I could do is I could set the meetings up from here, then you'd obviously and send you the link. You could then email those out to people or post them. If you've got a portal or an intranet site, put them on there.
Fantastic.
They basically be repeats. So I go over sort of what I've done for you today, but minus the super user stuff. I deal with any questions. I've done it for another organisation. We had 4 or 5 sessions, and of course you never quite know. I think one session 2 people turned up, another one about 15. So you never know. But again, we can record the sessions and then send it to you. Maybe again you could put it up on a portal somewhere that people could look at. So now we said 10 or 10:30. Any particular preference about that?
I think that's fine.
So 10:30 or something, or
yeah.
So if I book those 3 sessions and then send a link through to you, which you can then obviously send to other people, if that's okay. So
we can advertise on the Hive, Karen, and put the link on the Hive and advertise as much as we can to get people to sign up.
That's
Yeah,
great. Yeah, that's the thing to do. And then, then again, if we wanted to do it again in a couple of months' time or 6 months' time, we can do that as well. So the other thing I was going to mention as well, we need to sort of set an official contract start date, which I don't think we've
Yes.
done yet. So because we normally like to get people up and running before everything's okay. I was thinking, are
Okay.
you okay if we sort of say Monday next week as a sort of official start? Is that
Yeah, of
okay?
course. Yeah,
Because
yeah, of
that,
course. Yeah.
yeah, because you're sort of up and running and people are using it. So I think we're okay there. And then that becomes your annual renewal date. So the invoice will
Fantastic.
come out on that time. So if that's okay, that's great. So then you're not wasting money on the whole sort of setup process and things like that.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Good, good, good.
Sorry, Steve, I just missed something. You went, maybe I missed something. Um, because my thingy was getting a bit funny at some point.
Yeah.
Um, when we're adding users, etc., do we have to add them one by one, or can we do like a mass upload?
You can
keep the
what you can do
same.
is yeah, you can add them one by one, but the same as when we set your organization up to start with. If you let us know, and I'll send you that template, add them to the
Fantastic.
template, and then we'll upload them. We did add a function in the past where we allowed users organization to do bulk uploads, but we were finding a lot of problems with the quality of the data.
Yeah.
Sort of um, strenuous spaces or problems with the emails and things. So we seem to spend longer actually correcting the problems than we would if we did the uploads
Yeah,
ourselves.
exactly.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
if
Makes
we
sense.
can turn that on later on if that's something that we feel you're happy to do. But it's at the moment we prefer to sort of just make sure all the data is correct before we upload it there.
Fantastic.
So, but just let
Fantastic.
us know. Don't if you find yourself doing any boring repetitive stuff like content allocation or uploading users, let us know and we can probably help at this end, save you having to sort of spend ages doing all that side of it. So
Brilliant.
Perfect. Yeah. So I'm speaking about with new users, etc., just to get them um involved with it, etc. I'll
yeah.
probably just stick it into the local induction app as well, Denise.
Yeah, that'd be a really good idea.
Just to drive engagement through that app. So within the first, we've got an app. We call it an app. It's just like a little soft. It's just like a little thing made internally for us, and
Yeah.
it's a local induction checklist. So for
All
any
right.
clinical areas in particular, we signpost towards a few things. So I'm going to shove this in there as well.
Oh, brilliant.
We can also add it to the links on the induction email that goes out.
100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
That's
Is a
great.
fantastic. It's a no-brainer. It's a no.
absolutely.
Now,
It's
the
an
only thing
absolute
the
no-brainer.
only thing we sometimes find is the email that goes out with the confirmation link. The confirmation link does expire after a while. So if
Right.
people have problems with that, they can go onto the website and request a new confirmation link. But if you do get any problems with people having difficulty signing in, again, let us know and we can get that set up for them.
Fantastic.
Maybe later on, if we got people who've not even clicked on that link, maybe we can go through and resend it or something like that
Yeah,
to get them
we can
on the
do that.
system.
Yeah.
So there was something else I was going to say, but it's completely slipped my mind now. So I'll remember when I disconnect. But good, yeah. So wonderful. So I'll get those meetings set up,
Yeah.
and then I'll let the finance people know that we'll set next week as the official start date. If you
Perfect.
do think of anything else, do let me know. But and the video, what I'll do is I'll stick it on YouTube, and then I'll send you a link to it when it's sort of
Fantastic.
uploaded later on today.
Fantastic.
So you've got that. So
That's fine. Steve,
brilliant. Yeah,
just sorry, just if you got just a minute or so.
yeah. No, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Um, in terms of engagement, so I know there's emails that get sent out saying there's new content and those emails come out. Are those probably one of the better ways to drive the engagement, or should we be doing additional stuff as
Well, we
well?
do. I mean, we send the newsletters out, which tell the new content, and it appears on the website as well on the dashboard page. What we could do, if you want, is we could add your users to the newsletter list. We've done that for some organisations, and then when we do produce new content, they get an email to say that that content's available. We do obviously try and make it appropriate, so they wouldn't get stuff about administration of medicine in a care home and things like that. They get just content that was relevant to yourself. So is that something you'd want to think about, or I mean, it's question with
Let's have a think about it.
yeah,
Denise, what we'll do is let's link in with Sarah,
yeah,
because
Yeah,
most of the stuff is probably related to her within her remit, and see what she thinks would be the most relevant. So we can set that up. If not, I'm working on a newsletter for this financial year for us anyway. So we can include a few things on there. And I
oh,
suppose I could
brilliant.
just get snippets from a few updates here and there as well. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
no, sounds
So I think you're
fantastic.
both on
Quite
the.
excited.
I think you're both on the newsletter list, so you should be getting the.
I think I am.
Let's
I
have
don't
a
know
look.
where Ross is. Me.
Let's just see if I can find you. If not, I'll if you're not on
I
there,
don't know.
Denise,
I don't think I've seen any newsletters. I've
I'll,
had a
I'll
couple of
add you.
emails from you, but no newsletter.
I'll add you to the list then. So we
Thank
send
you.
them out. Where are we? Tuesday and Thursday they go out. So the one that went out today, and the next one will be on Thursday, which is I can't remember what it's about. I think it's about perinatal blood pressure and
Yeah.
pulse recording and things like that. So
I
but
got
things.
today's one.
What was today's? Because I do them and set them in advance.
Today's was new observations in midwifery guides.
Oh, that's the perinatal what do you call it? Perinatal. That's what I was looking.
Yes.
Perinatal
Well, I
observations
definitely
one.
am not
Yeah.
on the list then because I didn't get them.
No, okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. So I'll make sure you add you to the list and they come out or whatever. So
They are pretty
brilliant.
good actually because it gives you a really good reminder of a few new things and it gives you some other links at the bottom. It is pretty good, Denise.
Oh, good. Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
What we do as well, which when we got time, is we also try and do a hints and tips one where we do a little bit of information about how to run reports and stuff. But we've not had time to do that recently, but we're hoping to get back to that fairly soon. So if you're on the newsletter list, you'll start getting those as well. So,
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
okay, anything else?
Fantastic.
Great.
Thank you
Okay,
so
well,
much.
do let me know
Thank
if you've
you
got any
so much.
questions.
It's been really informative.
Brilliant. That's
Yeah.
great. I don't know. I wasn't really listening, so I hope it was. Well, to a certain extent, you do slip into the, you've done it a few times, so you do go into a sort of, a routine. But hopefully, I've covered everything you wanted on there. So
Thank you, have.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Great to speak to you. Anyway,
Thank you.
have a
Thank
good
you so
Lovely
enjoy
to
the rest of your
speak to you.
day.
Lovely to
Bye
meet
then.
you.
You
Take
too.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.